afternoon, everybody. Thank you for your greetings. We'll get another, taking a little few minutes for people to get here, for everybody to arrive. Minimize the pause at the beginning, but here we are. Great to see everybody. And can everybody hear me okay? Yes, I don't have my earphones in. And excellent. All right, so today we'll see what we get done. We're gonna get done some good stuff today. So I apologize to all of you because this class I haven't finished grading beyond what I did last week as of Monday. So I still have to grade all of your work, but I think I'll just say that by noon on Friday, I'm just pacing out the time I should have what you submitted, responding to it. I wanted us to finish up our lesson on, I want to finish up our lesson on essay writing so that a week from today, you'll have your first essay due. And so I just wanted to be able to work on that last part where we left off and use a different essay to show you all these final couple pieces. We're going to do that, and then I sent you all an email about 15 minutes ago, but so you can take a look at them with 3 poems in it, and these 3 poems are from the poetry packet. So I will talk to you about that in the second part of the class today. All right, so let's go. Okay, so I think what we talked about last time was we were talking about the elements of an essay, right? And they were a introduction, a body, and a conclusion. And we talked about the 3 aspects. We spent a little bit of time or some time talking about a thesis statement, right? To be able to identify and have a thesis statement in it. And we didn't really talk a lot about the body paragraph. We're going to speak a little bit more today about the body paragraph because that's in the handout. And then we're also going to just talk about the conclusion. And then you'll have at least the basic elements to craft an essay. Some of the assignments that you have done, you can build off of the assignments that you've done. Once I have the feedback from the last ones, you'll have at least feedback on those. I know some of you wanted to start new ones. That's perfectly fine to do as well. But you can pick some from the packet. Today, we're going to explore 3 different poems. I may read one more at the end of class, like I read Still I Rise at the end of the last class. And then read 1 or 2 more poems on Monday before we start transitioning to the next genre, which will be the plan is I believe it's on Wednesday. We will be ending poetry on Monday and going into fiction on Wednesday next week. So that's kind of the plan for the next week and a half with us. So I want to take a look at, and I think some of the best ways to talk about this is do a little bit of instruction and then give you a little bit of an example. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the handout. So I will check the chat before I go. Good evenings, good evenings, good evenings. Excellent. And I will share my screen. And go here. Here. Yeah, okay. So I'm back at this handout. Let me make a small. So I'm back at this handout, right? The 5-paragraph essay, crafting a thesis statement. What I just reviewed was the introduction, right? There's an introductory paragraph that has a thesis statement. You have body paragraphs that will explain further what the thesis statement states. And then you will have a conclusion, which is more of a reflection, summary, restatement of some of the things you just discussed. It's not a place to put new things. It's a place to, it's more of a summarizing or restating of your main points. Now, and we looked at how this looks visually. We talked about a thesis statement, right? That it's a roadmap for the paper. So that if you're going to write a paper that looks at symbolism and looks at imagery and looks at rhyme in a poem, you will say this, in the poem, the poet uses rhyme, symmetry, and something and then convey their main point, right? And then you're going to speak about and the way you list those three things, those body paragraphs will follow. Okay. Um, so we went through uh, some examples of thesis statements. And in the handout, there's different ways you can craft them, right? I'm trying to think of one, this will come helpful to you later on. Here's one, right? On number 8. So I'm going to pull number 8 out. Okay. Okay. For some reason, things are moving slowly. I'm just going to close some things here because my computer, for some reason, has decided to move slowly. Just bear with me a moment because it gave me that message, so I want to close some things. Just coming back into the classroom, while it does all this stuff. Anyway, what I want to do is take that example of one of the poems of a of a of a of one of the poems in the packet, and you see an example of how the thesis statement could work with that. Let me see this. Needs to be moving faster. All right, so here's an example of if you're crafting a thesis statement and you're going to be using it from, and let me make this bigger. So not to confuse you, but we've been talking about crafting one poem, but let's say if you decided you wanted to focus on a topic and see how the topic looks in 3 different poems, that's another way you can approach the assignment, right? So here's the topics, right? Is our explored, challenged, etc. in the work of, and then you list the authors, right? So here, a way that this thesis might look is the power of symbolism, right? Is explored in the poems The Queen by Pablo Neruda, First Poem for You by Kim Adonisio, and White Lies by Natasha Trethewey, right? So this is a thesis statement. When I see this, in addition to the introduction, right, they would say more, it would say something about poetry and the fine right? It will define, you will say something more about poetry in general and define symbolism in the introduction. Then this will be the thesis. And then so I know the first body paragraph would be about the queen, right? Symbolism in the queen. Second body paragraph. The third body paragraph. Leave out. And then it'd be a conclusion, right? So this would be paragraph 1. That would be the structure of this essay. Right. So I just wanted to give one more look at how you can approach the assignment and how a thesis statement would say. It clearly states the power of symbolism explored in the poems. The Queen by Pablo Neruda, The First Poem for You by Kim Adenizio, and White Lies by Natasha Trethewey. And so when I read this, I'm clear that you're going to talk about symbolism in the Queen, and then you're going to speak about symbolism in The First Poem for You, and then you're going to speak about symbolism in White Lies. Okay. And then you're going to write a conclusion to the essay. So in terms of going back to the handout, so I want to go back to the section where it talks about the body paragraph, right? And here, a body paragraph, right, should include these 4 components, right? It should include a topic sentence, which means a sentence that states what that paragraph is going to be about. It should include a quote from the text, concrete details, and a specific symbol from the work, example from the work used to provide evidence for your topic, right? Then commentary on the topic, your explanation and interpretation of that quote, and the clincher, which is the concluding sentence, the last sentence of the body. Now, you could only use one quote, right, and commentary if you want, but you can also use a second quote, give a second example in it, and it just makes your body paragraph stronger if you use more than one example. It also addresses the question sometimes that students have, and they're like, I don't know what to write. Like after I've written this paragraph is about symbolism, the poem has symbolism, I don't know what else to say. So by giving examples and commentary and doing more than one, it makes your paragraph stronger and juicier, okay? So if we were to go back down, right, if we take these 4 ideas, right, or these 4 tips, and it's right right? And know that that will be the construction of all of your body paragraphs should have that. So they should all use quotes from the text, etc. Right? Go here. And I'm going to go back to my thing here. I'm just going to pop this in here. Right? So these are the things. So I'm going to write Okay, I'm assuming that I'm taking the position that it's a woman, right? That it's a love poem. Right, so this is the topic sentence, so I know what this sentence, my topic sentence is what this paragraph will be about, right at the beginning. And then you can say more about the poem at this point, or you can go right into a quote, and I'm going to say, he says, so I just was crafting what would be a body paragraph, right? If this was my thesis statement, right? The power of symbolism is explored in the poems, Queen, first poem for you, Metanesio, right? So my first body paragraph would be about the Queen, right? I'm going to highlight that a different color. That will be about the Queen. So my first body paragraph would be this. Now, the handout tells me, my professor tells me that I have to have a topic sentence that states the main point of the paragraph, that I have to use a quote from the text, right? That I have to do commentary, which means I have to explain it. And at the very least, that I have to do a concluding sentence. The last sentence of the body paragraph, it concludes the paragraph by trying to type in the concrete details and commentary back to the major thesis, right? So here I write, in Pablo Neruda's A Queen, the author uses the ideas of a queen to symbolize his love and value for a woman. So for his woman. Right at the top is the topic sentence, right? Then I go into a quote. No one sees your crystal crown. Use the quote. The author writes this line to crown his woman, to make her his queen. The crown is crystal, but it is see-through. It is imaginary, but he sees it, and it raises her up to the value of a queen. He also writes, no one sees the red carpet you tread. Royalty and celebrities walk a red carpet for events and ceremonies. This is another example of the level of love and admiration Neruda has for his love, his queen. Then his concluding sentence. These examples symbolize the ways in which he sees his love as a queen. Okay, so I'm going to stop for a minute. So what I was just doing is showing the different levels when you're doing your paragraph that you should state the topic. You can give an example. And in that paragraph, it was look like a juicy paragraph because I used two examples and I explained them, right? So it's the commentary. Okay. So you should be thinking about that as you begin to craft your sentences. So many of you did it, right? Many of you did it with the assignment that you did. Some, very successfully as well. So I wanted to show you, do a little bit with you on the body paragraph. We'll have also, the papers due in a week. So I want you to think about it. You'll have an opportunity if you want to do a draft of your paper. Some of you want to write your introductions, you can do that as well. But I wanted to share that with you. I'm going to share my screen again. Just to go over the assignment and show you that last part. Let's keep going back to the surface. Great. So when you're writing your essay, your literary analysis essay, right? You should make sure that you basically says makes an argument or claim, but it's more that you have a clear thesis that includes a thesis which lists the key points the essay will discuss, right? That provides evidence to support your claim. That means that whatever you say is in the poem, that you can find a quote or something to support it, right? Refers to the authors and the work in the opening sentences, right, of the introduction, right? And you should use the author's full name and first name and the author's last name and all further references in the essay. So when you write about, and when you mention an author, if you notice in my piece, I didn't write Babalo, I wrote Neruda, right? Because you have to refer them either by their full name or just their last name. Here is use literary present tense to discuss events in fiction, poetry, or drama. Use strong verbs. These are just some tips, right? But that it has a conclusion, right? That more than simply summarizes the work, and that is compliance with MLA formatting. And we haven't gone over that, but I'm going to go over that in a moment, right? That has MLA formatting. And actually, no, I'm going to do that on Monday. So here's the assignment, and it's due September 29th at 11:59 p.m., right? So by the midnight after class. So students are asked to select one poem or poems from the poetry packet handout and or from the Elements of Poetry handout to write an essay that identifies and illustrates the poetic terms explored in our classes and readings, including subject, theme, sound, imagery, rhyming schemes, metaphors, and similes, type of poem or closed poem, among others. The essay should use the 5-paragraph essay format and can be up to 10 paragraphs, and I'll explain what that is. The essay should be between 3 to 4 pages, double-spaced, 1-inch margin, 12-point Times Roman or Arial, and use MLA structure for the first page and the essay. Okay, so it's a 5-paragraph essay. So I'm encouraging you to, if you decide you want to explore symbolism, like what I just did in the previous example, and you want to look at it over 3 poems, and I just did one for Neruda. We can probably do it together if we did for first poem for you. We haven't really talked about White Lies as a group, but that's another one that has a lot of symbolism inside of it. So you could choose symbolism, you could choose imagery, maybe you could choose the theme of love, like I want to explore the theme of love, and then this is how it looks in the Queen, this is how it looks in first poem for you, this is how it looks in, there's one by this, there's not Life Through My Eyes, not a Rose of Ruth Concrete. There's another one that Tupac wrote that is another love poem. So you could do a theme of love and look at 3 different poems and how love looks in this poem, how love looks in that poem, how love looks in the other poem. Or you can stick to what we've been talking about and just stick to one poem, right? And then pick 3 elements inside that poem that you want to explore, right? Or you want to share. So I'm going to pause and see if there are any questions about the assignment. No. Okay. So So what we'll do next is I want to do a an exercise with you with some poems, right? So I'm going to share my screen again, and there are how many people in class? 23. So that's like about 7. It's almost everybody. There's just one person not here. Our class has 24 students in it as of today. So just about everybody's here. So thanks for your attendance. So what we're going to do is I'm going to break us up into groups. So there'll be 3 groups. And so each group will have a poem. So group number 1 will be the poem For My Own Protection. Group number 2 will be the poem Pearly. And group number 3 will be the poem Don't Look at My Arms, right? And I'm going to look at those 3 poems briefly. And so what I want you to do is when you're in the groups, I want you to see how many, like, first spend a few minutes to figure out to see what themes are in the poem, like what ideas in the poem, right? And come up with at least 2 for each poem, right? The group. You can come up with more. Come up with at least 2 themes, right? And then I want you to come up with at least 2 other poetic elements. So we have 2 themes and 2 other elements. So it could be rhyme, it could be alliteration, it could be symbolism, it could be imagery, it could be any of the other poetic elements, but at least 2 for each poem. So at the end of the discussion, you should have at least 2 themes, at least 2 additional poetic elements from the poem that assigned to your group. So is everybody able to see the email? Just raise your hand if you did not get the email.
About group work?
Yeah, the email about with the 3 poems. If you didn't receive it, raise your hand. So Ninoshka is the only one who did not receive it. Ninoshka, could you put your, oh, this class did.
I'm gonna double check. Hold on, because I'm trying to.
Okay.
I got it.
Okay. So Lorraine, you did not get it?
No, I'm sorry.
Lorraine, are you able to go to Blackboard?
Yes, I can.
Okay, 1 second.
Okay, I'm on Blackboard.
Okay, 1 second.
Okay. Is it under the poetry section?
Yeah, 1 second. I want to let it have its own folder.
Okay, no problem.
This will be the same for anyone who can't open their email. So you have to post it. Just give me 1 more second.
Take your time.
Yeah, I just don't have all the time in the world. I wish I did, but I don't. All right, here we go.
Professor,
Yes,
I have a question.
this
So
drawing.
it's me imagining.
Okay.
Okay, I see the email, and my question is, so you're gonna make a groups, right?
Right now, yeah.
Yeah, okay, you are splitting us right now, right?
Say it again.
You are splitting the group. Like it's gonna be three groups. That's what I know, right?
Yeah, it's going to be 3 groups.
One, two, three. So we're not gonna work in the other prompts that we did before. You want we do like a different one? Let's say you work in Pablo Neruda's and another stuff, and we gotta do a different one, right?
Yeah. 1 second. Let me make
Right.
sure I understand what you're asking. But I just got this here. I'll explain it again. Okay, you may need to refresh your I created a file right now. It's in course content and it's called Poems for
Okay.
Basic. And it's at the top if you go into course
Okay.
content, and the 3 poems should be there.
Okay, I see.
You see them? Okay, good. All right. So everybody either has them, but if you don't have them, you can go to you
Yes,
can go
I
to,
see it.
you can go to group. You can go there and you'll see the 3 poems there. So in a few minutes, I'm going to do breakout rooms. And so it's going to be random. So I don't know who's going to be in what room, but just remember that if you land in group number 1, that your poem is going to be for my protection. So just look at that one poem. If you're in group number 2, the poem is going to be Curly. And in group number 3, you just don't look at my arms. Okay. And then basically have a discussion. Pick somebody to share with us, back with us. So one person we should be like 2 people. It could be the same person, but it'd be great. It'd be 2 people. One person read the poem to us when we come back. And then one person report back what the themes, and you can do it as a group, share their responsibilities, but at least some person to report back what the, at least 2 of the themes in it and 2 additional poetic elements that are not themes, right? So any questions? All right, so I'm gonna share my screen because I just want to look at the poems for a quick moment together, see what they are.
Is there gonna be a timer so that we can reconvene and return to the thing, or do we just leave on our own accord?
Yeah, no, you're gonna have, if I start it in 4 minutes, which is my plan, you'll have about 15 minutes. I'm gonna check in with you, but then you'll get like I'll send you a notice to say, you have 5 minutes, and then you'll get a notice saying you have a minute to end. Okay. So first is this Essex Hemphill. He's a poet and performer. He's known for his political edge, and he died in 1995. He died from AIDS, and but he studied English in the University of Maryland. He's wrote a lot of poetry, and there was and he won a whole bunch of awards. But unfortunately, he passed from AIDS in 1995, and this is for my own protection. The second group is gonna study Yoseli Castillo. I don't have a bio here for Yoseli, but I can tell you Yoseli Castillo is a New York Dominican poet, and she is alive, and she's in her, I think probably like in her 40s. And so she very often writes about her culture and herself and her life, as most poets do. Most poets write from a very personal place. And then the other poet is Donnell McGee. And I also don't have a bio for him, but Donnell has won awards. And in fact, this particular poem, I just recently learned won a very big award, a very prestigious award called a Pushcart. And he is also alive and probably in his 40s. And he lives on the West Coast. and has his own publishing company. Not these weren't published through that company. He publishes other authors, but he himself has had several books of poetry and several. He has a novel, 2 novels, and I think 2 books of poetry that have been published. So that's Donnell McGee. I wanted to give you a little bit of that. So what it's going to do is going to put you into breakout rooms like automatically. So remember, group 1 will be the first poem for My Own Protection. Group 2 will be Curly, and group 3 will be Don't Look at My Arms. Okay. So remember to pick somebody to, definitely unmute yourself so you can talk. Don't let 1 or 2 people do all the work in the group. Somebody could take notes, or all of you could take notes, but and you might discover either the poem you got might be a poem you decide to switch to, or maybe hearing after the other groups report on the poems that that might be a poem that you might want. And if people are already giving you the themes and giving you poetic elements, they're doing some of the brainstorming and the outlining that you would need to do for your poems anyway. So you should pay attention in case any of these appeal to you. Okay. Any questions before I do the breakout rooms?
No.
We go until 3 rooms. And,
We hear you really far, Professor. Sorry.
say it again.
Now we
Yeah.
can hear you.
Okay. You were hearing music or something?
I was listening to you, but really far.
Okay. All right, here we go. I could already see it. Room 1 is going to be April, Gregory, Jacqueline, Joanny, Lorraine, Mabel, and Tamor. Room 2 is going to be Adama, Francesca, Malin, Media, Ninoshka, and Rehan. And then group 3 is going to be Cesar, Janabu, Jacqueline, Rochester, Rosemary, Thelma, and Wiley. Okay, so they're just split the rooms. All right, I'm going to open the rooms. Gregory, you have to accept the room.
We're back.
We're back.
Group 1 is back. Group 2 and 3, I guess they're still doing their thing. In a minute, it'll close it for them. It's going to be in 6, 5, 4.
Now, question,
3.
Professor, question. Can you put up the poem for the first group so
Sure.
I can see it? Thank you.
Damn, we were just about to find the one element. We just needed one more time, like one more minute.
20 seconds.
20 seconds. Oh.
20 more
Yeah.
seconds. Yeah, 20 more seconds.
All right, cool. So I'm going to share the screen and then here. We'll see a little bit of ourselves in it here. And I'm going to move us to this side of the screen. I'm going to move this to this side of the screen. And all right, so the first poem, For My Own Protection by S. Semple. Can someone read it for us?
Okay, I'm gonna read it. Wait, I need you to zoom out some though,
Can you see it?
please.
Oh,
Yes, I didn't zoom out because part of the poem is like cut off because the font is too big.
at the bottom?
It starts like I can see the start and I see where it goes to Black men can form and then it cuts off. Like you have it zoomed in. I need you to zoom out a little bit.
Like that?
Yes, some more. Zoom out some more. Oh, okay. One more time. Perfect. That's great. Thank you.
All right.
Okay. I want to start an organization to save my life. If whales, snails, dogs, cats, Chrysler and Nixon can be saved, the lives of Black men are priceless and can be saved. We should be able to save each other. I don't want to wait for the Heritage Foundation to release a study saying Black people are extinct. I don't want to be the living dead, pacified with drugs, sex, and rock and roll. I'm a human chain be formed. Oh, excuse me. If a human chain be formed around nuclear missile sites, then surely Black men can form human chains around Anacostia, South Africa, Wall Street, Hollywood, each other. If we have to take tomorrow with blood, are we ready? Do our curls, dreadlocks, and fillies make us more ready than a bush or concubine? I am not concerned about the attire of a soldier. All I want to know for my own protection is, are we capable of whatever, whenever?
Great, thank you. Okay. What themes did you all find? Group 1, any themes from?
Unity and coming together.
Unity and coming together. Okay.
I would like to say like a movement type of Black Lives Matter kind of.
Kind of a Black Lives Matter, Black empowerment, right? Okay. What about any poetic elements? None?
I wasn't so clear on that one. Mabel, can you help me with that one?
Mabel seems to be
Mabel.
either scolding somebody or trying to explain something.
I know when we were speaking about the element, she has said like a pro element because it's written like a speech.
Okay. Yeah, that one, it's There inside of this one, I'll share my screen so people can see it. Yeah, there's clearly, so, I mean, and this is like all of you just reading it for the first time, probably cold, right? And reading it maybe once or twice and then having to do this assignment. So, so you did a great job with that, right? Because we know when we're reading poems, we would slow down. We have to, there's a lot of words in there that you're like, what are those words? Like, what are they referring to? But yes, there's a lot of things inside of this poem. Like even in this, if I go down the first 4 lines, I want to start an organization to save my life, right? If whales, snails, dogs, and cats, Chrysler and Nixon can be saved, the lives of Black men are priceless and can be saved, right? So with that, just that opening kind of sets up the themes that you were all talking about and the whole idea of empowerment, right? And so the idea of being saved, right? Being rescued, right? Is another idea. And so there's there was, and particularly in the 70s and 80s, there was a bigger one, a whole movement called Save the Whales, right? Because there were a lot of whales were dying and becoming extinct. And so there was this movement to save the world. You know, dogs and cats are rescued from the streets, right? Chrysler is a big corporation and they got a government bailout. Nixon was a president that got impeached and was going to be removed from office, but he resigned. And then later on was pardoned, right, by the next president, gave him a pardon, right, he got saved, right, he didn't have to go to jail, he didn't have to, any of that kind of stuff. So he's saying if all these conditions could be created to save these animals, right, and corporations and criminals, certainly Black men can be saved as well.
Are just as important.
Just as important, right? And just as worthy of saving, right? Says a lot of things in here, but there's also ideas of imagery inside of this poem. That's one of the big other poetic elements. The ideas of the idea of forming a chain. So that was another thing with there was a protest against nuclear bombs and nuclear missiles. People would form a chain around. There would, a human chain around them. So he was talking about there's all these big movements to make change and to save lives by protesting war and all these things. And then the last part, he's saying, are we equipped? Like the second part, do we have the take tomorrow with blood? Are we ready? Our S curls as a hairstyle, dreadlocks and Phillies make us more ready than a bush or a conch line, right? So these playing with the idea of bush and conch line, right? But the idea is like, what is it that we have, right? And what do we focus on, as a society? So in a way, I look at myself, like, what were the things that I was doing when I was growing up? What are the things that we do as we grow up? What are the things that we value, right? Are we thinking about the future? Are we thinking about the world? Are we thinking about the environment? Or, are we, just only thinking about partying? Because I think having fun is very important and healthy in life for a full, healthy person. So these are some of the ideas inside of the poem by Essex Senfil. So thank you both to Joannie, and I didn't see who read, but whoever read, thank you for reading.
I think it was Lorraine.
It was Lorraine.
Thank you, Lorraine. So, so if anyone else has anything they want to add from group one, let me just stop sharing for a minute because I can see very little. Right, Mabel? She's still distracted. Yeah, something's going on. All right. All right. So thank you, group one. Let's move on to group two.
I can add something, Professor. I always have something to say. I think we can, nowadays, with all the movements we've been having, I think this poem has a lot. It applies to what's happening nowadays a lot.
What's interesting for you to say that, I believe Essex Hemphill wrote this in the 90s or the 80s, right? And so, yeah, I have that around here. I think it was in the 90s, I think I have the book this came from, I have it somewhere around here. But it was in the early 90s that he wrote. I'm looking at my book, I'm looking at my shelf. I'm actually I'm always teaching from some crazy place, but lately I've been in my office that I created. I moved into an apartment. I have my bookshelves there and everything that I need. So I'm looking over here because my bookshelf is over there to try to see if I see the book. Oh. No. It's in that area, but I'm not going to get up and waste time because we only have about 8 minutes and I want to get the other groups to speak. But it's interesting that he wrote this in the 90s and a lot of things that he's writing about still vibrate and resonate today. Nobody used Black Lives Matter back in the night. Nobody used that like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, right? And lately now it's part of the movement, right? Of the latest movement for equality, right? So yeah, it's interesting how poems, right, still political poems still have the same vibration, the same resonance. Thank you, group one. All right, how about group two? Group two was Curly. Okay, let me put it up on this. Yes.
Do you want us to say the theme or you want us to read the?
Somebody to read the poem. I'm going to bring it up on the screen. Okay, here we go. And move us over here. So we're out of the way, make this a little bigger. And then I'll move it as well, okay? So Curly by Yoseli Castillo, and let me do this like this, and I'll move it. All right.
I'll read it.
Okay, Nidia.
Curly. No se puede corregir a la naturaleza, pero que nace arredado jamás su rizo endereza. I am going to strain this week. I dread doing it. It is actually a waste of time, but it's something different. I do it once a year sometimes. I like the makeover. It's a change. It also makes mommy happy. She thinks she has a beautiful girl. Since I was born, my mother wanted me to be straight, but I was curly. She will make me moños, doobies, blowers, rolos, and all kind of treatments to straighten me out. I used to cry a lot from the jalones of the peine, from the pressure of the blower, from the heat of the secador, from the sting of the pinchos. I hated the process. To be straight was not worth all the pain. I wanted to be like when I wanted to be like when I went to the river, loose, natural, real, free, curly. My best friend's mother also changed her hair. They didn't like us playing with each other's curls in the river, or the back of the house, or our rooms. What? Oh. She changed though. She is almost, I can't see she almost naturally straight now. What is naturally curly? Yes, I was born that way. Since I can remember, I used to play with girls. I mean, with my curls. It's difficult to manage sometimes, but it's worth the fight. And I just love it when they are all out and wild.
Great, thank you. Okay. Any themes from that?
One of the themes is change.
Mm-hmm. What do you mean change?
Like she wanted to be herself. She didn't want to be changed to something that she wasn't comfortable in.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'm gonna help out my partner.
Yes, Agnieszka.
So I think that what she was trying to say was that change within the poem was that her mom was basically saying that, you're more beautiful with straight hair. So, with it being curly, she feels more natural, more free, right? And then the poetic, I would say mood. I feel like the way she was explaining the way that her mom was trying to change her was like the mood of how she was expressing that. Because then in the very end, she was kind of like, I feel like she was reflecting back to like her childhood, because they were playing and then now they're not playing now that they have straight hair. So it made me look at it as like, her mom was forcing her to be a woman, because she also explains in the beginning of the poem, like, I have to like doing makeups, so she said. Yeah, I do it once a year.
Like a female,
it is a change.
Okay. Was that Francesca or someone else wanted to say something?
No, I was just correcting what she said.
What did you say?
No, when about what she was saying about the change, that what it says in the poem, she was trying to make a makeover that her mama was trying to do to her to
Yeah.
change it so she can look different.
Mhm. What about any poetic themes? I see your hand, Johnny, in a minute. I'll give you a moment. Any poetic elements?
Like rhyme?
There's some. She does some inline rhymes, right? There's also in this poem a lot of imagery, right? The idea of being at the river,
Correct.
the idea of the hair being wild, being free. You know, there's a lot of imagery inside of this poem, right? She's also working with structure. If you look at the way at that section where she lists only one word per line. So she's working also with structure. Okay. Johnny, is that what you were going to say about imagery?
That, but also the way that I took the poem, or what I was able to sense from it, it's how her mom wanted her to be straight, to not be a lesbian. And it starts with the song of what's his name, the Puerto Rican artist Salcero, Palo que nace doblado jamás su tronco endereza, which it talks about a person that was gay, and he ended up having AIDS. And in a way, she says in her poem how she plays it off with, I like to play with curls, or with girls, or with curls, you know, like that's when she wrote it up, and it made everything more clear. So I believe that she was lesbian and her mom wanted her to be straight. And then I guess the other mother didn't like them playing together because she noticed something was going on there, and she wanted her daughter to be straight.
Yes. Mayela, you're nodding. You wanted to.
I'm just, listen to her and I'm agree. Like other time when she mentions about straight, I knew that was something about her personality or sexual orientation, gender, whatever. And her mother wants to change her. That's why she wants to change, her curly hair into straight hair.
Right.
Meaning
So,
straight everything. I mean, not everything because it doesn't say it, but the idea, it's that. Yep.
it's there. So, I mean, we're 5 minutes over almost. I want to thank you all. I'm going to finish off with this one. And group 3, I'll have you present on Monday so that I don't hold the class for another till 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. But yes, one of the things that she uses is metaphor, right? Metaphor is when you're, comparing two things. So in this one, she's using the metaphor of hair being straight or curly to being a straight or queer person, right? And in a way, the ideas are similar, right? Because I think she's also playing with culture. We think Dominican culture specifically, but a lot of cultures in the Caribbean, the idea of curly hair, pelo malo, right? Hair that's not straightened, right? That's not you're supposed to do it that way, right? You have forced it to be that way, that is better. There's a value. And there's also this value between a straight person and a queer person, particularly in many cultures. So it's really clever how she works with the idea of curly. You could understand it as a poem about hair, right? Because on the one hand, it is about hair, but she's giving you the hints that there's more going on with this. And that's the power of poetry, that it could be working on a lot of different levels. So, all right, we've run out of time. So thank you for your time and your energy. Group 3, which will be, I have to try to keep this together, which is Cesar, Dejanabu, Jacqueline, Rosemary, Thelma, and Wiley will present Don't Look at My Arms on Monday. And then these poems too, you could pick any of these poems to also decide to focus your essay that will be due next week, Wednesday. So I will hang out for another 5 minutes just in case people have questions, but if not, then have a good night. Thank you for staying extra a little late, and I'll see you all on Monday. And look for my comments over the next couple of days. I'll comment on.
Okay, bye, Professor.
Good night.
All right, Professor. Have a good night. Have a good weekend. Bye.
Hi, everybody.
Bye,
Take care.
Professor. Have a good weekend.
All right, you too, Amelia. Bye, Thelma. Gregory se fue. I don't think Gregory was in class. Mabel, we're done. My bad. We're finished.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I had another meeting at 6:30, and then my son fell. So there's like 3 million things going on here.
We saw it. We're like, esa está entregada. We don't know what's going on over there. But she's not here.
All right. Sorry, guys. Have a good night.
All right, take care.
Ay, Dios.
Professor, me
Yes.
again. Sorry. I want to start working on my essay.
Okay.
So, I don't know. I kind of like this one that you just mentioned just now with the
Which is
group
really-
two.
Yeah.
With the group two. My son is gay,
Mhm.
so I kind of relate to it. And as a parent, I was able to kind of transport myself to the situation when I was finding out about my son.
Mhm.
So yeah, so it touched me. It gave me goosebumps. So I took
Oh.
it kind of personal.
Yeah. I could tell I was like, you wanted to say something, and I knew you were gonna. I was counting
I
on
was like,
you.
I hope my group doesn't get mad because I'm saying something in this one.
Yeah. No. But yeah, it's a great poem. I may actually have her come visit our class. I spoke to her
Oh,
recently.
nice.
She might come visit us and read it to us. It'd be great to hear her read the poem herself and share some more things. And that book that she that got published with her poems is being reissued. So she recently reached out to me to give her a quote for her books.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Cool.
nice. I think you know, it's as a Dominican and a Dominican parent, I was able to put two and two together and see it and trying to straighten hair that you cannot, you know, but you grow with certain taboos, and I way past that. I love my son to death, and I would not change him for the world.
And the other thing, what she does is also work with language, right? She's playing with
Mhm.
language and color.
So I was
you know.
able to understand it really good, like
Yeah.
to untangle and making it straight, and
Right.
yeah,
The
it's
hollowness.
really,
all
mhm,
kinds of stuff. Yeah.
yeah. And just if I start working on it, what would you like for me to put? I can put the metaphor and the
You have the metaphor, you have the use of language, right? The way
Mhm.
she uses Spanish and English, like what's the purpose of that? Like, why did she do that? You know, and who is she talking to, right? When she does that.
she's trying to persuade and you know, it touch certain public.
Mhm.
And como lo digo, I will say it in Spanish. She's tratando como de llegarle a cierta población y a
Sí.
cierto pensamiento de cierta tipo de gente que tiene ciertos tabús